just like my comments on meeting management, I believe in starting a meeting on time and ending a meeting on time or earlier if the business is finished. So starting the recording of the week 4 live session. Kimberly Lombardo is with me. She's the only one so far. And if she ends up being the only one, that's all right. I'm here for you. And if I can answer your questions, I'm glad to do it. Kimberly, are you back?
I am. I'm back.
Excellent. Well, I started my spiel, and it's just you and I. And, that's fine. Um, Let me go through my PowerPoint, and when you have questions or comments, go ahead and ask, okay?
Sounds good.
I'm going to share my desktop so you can see all my secrets. Not really. Let me bring up my PowerPoint, and here we go. Tonight we'll look at who's here. So far, just you and me, but I would not be at all surprised if we had other people join us. We'll look at week 4's objectives. We'll look at the week 4 assignment. I'll give you just a preview of the week 5 assignment, just so, I don't know, I think it's helpful. And then, we'll discuss anything else that you or the other students who join us would like. So that's me in a lighter moment. And if I haven't talked about In-N-Out Burger, which is this California burger chain I'm crazy about, also in Texas. There's a T-shirt I got one time. Do you have any questions off the top, Kimberly, that I can answer for you, or concerns?
I don't personally have any questions. Everything's been pretty smooth. I like that everybody kind of communicates with each other and everybody really participates actively. So we kind of answer each other's questions, I think, sometimes.
I've seen a lot of that in this class, more than in most classes, and I'm really glad to see the interaction. For my part, I like to I want to be sure and not dominate any conversation. I just want to add to it where I think it's appropriate. But yeah, I think the students are kind of holding your own as it comes to these topics, which is just great. You're learning from each other. That is my expectation, and it's going along pretty good. So
yes, I agree. Looks like we just had someone else sign in too, just so you know.
Did. Well, let me greet them. Hold on, this one. Oh, yes, it's Nancy. Nancy, welcome. You're muted, Nancy. If you wouldn't mind just saying hello so I know you can converse as necessary. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's a technical issue. But I see you're there, Nancy, and if you can unmute and comment, you just do that when you can. Otherwise, I'm going to continue into the presentation of the week 4 live session. So the week 4 objectives are these, differentiate among leadership theories. And you've had a lot of them thrown at you throughout the class, not just in week 4. And I'm not going to go through those, but I will say that I believe we have, as managers, kind of a personality that exhibits a behavior, a leadership behavior that kind of gets us into certain categories more than others. I think autocratic is just out of my realm. I don't think I do good at it at all, for example. Nor would I do good with laissez-faire. I like structure. I like being a manager and managing projects, people, funds, time, and so forth. But if there's any questions about specific leadership theories or something you'd like to discuss about those, either of you or any of you, I'm glad to do that. And the next objective, analyze the leadership function within the management role. So we've talked a little bit about the differences between management and leadership, and I think they are really there. But I would have to say that they're part conceptual and part functional. What do you mean, Ron? Well, I mean that no company hires a leader, a pure leader, right? Wendy's doesn't, Walmart doesn't, Merrill Lynch doesn't. They hire somebody to have responsibility for a given set of functions, usually a budget, staff, equipment, and so forth. So they hire managers, and they hope that the manager has the leadership capabilities. They might ask them questions about past leadership situations. But they hire managers and hope they lead. They don't hire leaders and hope they manage, I think, so much. That's just my take on it. Okay, so if there's no questions on the objectives, we'll talk or give you an opportunity to talk about the week 4 assignment, which is examination of leadership approaches. It is a paper. I'm going to bring up the paper. Let's see if I've got it here. Yes, the instructions for the paper. 800 to 1100 words. That's on the moderate side. That's not really very long for University of Phoenix papers. And you can see the instructions there. You can read them as well, or better than me, because I've got to have glasses. And I just want to emphasize that this paper, all of the papers, are going to go through the plagiarism checker. It is something I mentioned last week during the preview of the week 4 assignment, and I'm going to go through that process. And my expectation is that you are going to use sources, and and you're going to quote them. Some amount of your paper is going to be non-original content, therefore. And that's fine. I expect that. What I can't accept is a paper that is 40% non-original content, or even 30%. I start to wonder that, about the balance. Using sources is fine. It is expected. You're going to do that throughout your program. But the vast majority of your work should be original content. You explaining what your sources mean, or using those sources to bolster what you've already said. Am I making sense? You see my philosophy with that?
I do. I actually was going to ask you, so like a maximum of like, say, 25% maybe of your paper should be, or do you want it lower than that?
Well, I think if you're at 25%, that's probably where I draw a line. I think more than that, I'll probably deduct. It depends, but I think certainly 30%, I'm going to be deducting some, and over that. I'd like to see it 20 or below, but I think if you're at 25, you're going to be okay.
Okay, thank you. That was the question, because I'm not big on using sources so much as doing the research and then writing off of what I learned from it. But I know that most professors prefer to have at least some citations, so I just want to make sure that we're in the right range.
Yes, and I appreciate, wanting to get something definitive. It is a matter of judgment in my part. Some of it depends on the actual sources used, but in the end, I've got to have the vast majority of your work to be your original stuff. Okay. Any questions on the assignment itself or the instructions? Are they clear enough for you?
I know for me they are. I'm actually really enjoying the paper. I enjoy papers over like PowerPoints and stuff, so.
Well, it's interesting, Kimberly, because the previous version of this class, and that would have been prior to January of 2018, was almost all papers. I think it was like 5 papers and a PowerPoint presentation. Also had learning team assignments. So it's changed quite a bit. Some of that's due to Dr. Duncan, the guy who ran the week 1 live session. He wanted to do more worksheets, and I've accommodated his desire there, at least what I thought was appropriate. But yeah, I think this is actually the one paper in the class, so it's really gone down the papers in terms of how many there are. Okay, back to my PowerPoint. I wanted to give you a preview of the week 5 assignment, an organizational metrics analysis. So I'm going to go to the instructions. This is actually an assignment that I created. It's not canned. And my intent here is to, this is week 5 is going to be focused on the management function of control. And metrics, measuring outcomes, is a common, and I won't say required, but very common method of determining whether goals are met in organizations. And I think you're probably aware of that. So I'm going to ask you to identify 3 organizational goals of your organization or past organization for those who are not currently employed. And then determine what metrics are used. And you know, if there is an organizational goal that you identify and there is no metric in the organization to do that, then I would expect you to recommend one, if that makes sense. So you've got a worksheet, and then you've got a paper, 500 words, no more than that. This is not a bottom line. This is a top line, a ceiling. No more than 500 words to discuss how well those metrics for each goal determine goal achievement. Okay. Anything strike you odd about this? Or maybe you haven't looked at it, and that's fine. I don't expect you to at this point. But I hope this seems clear. And if it's not, let me know what's unclear, and I'll explain. Very well. That being the case, that's the end of my presentation. I'll keep up my my PowerPoint presentation. I see we have a few other folks. Jesus Espada is with us. Welcome, Jesus. Bienvenidos. And Angel Romine. Welcome, Angel. And do any of you have any questions about? Is there something you'd like me to repeat that maybe you didn't see in my PowerPoint presentation? Or questions you have?
I actually have one question for you, if that's okay. So like next week, I'm going to be flying up to New York for the week to be with family. Yeah, I kind of missed my family, so it'd be nice to spend some time with them. But out of curiosity, if I finish all my stuff this week by tomorrow, that's my goal, and still continue to comment, am I allowed to go, are we allowed to go ahead a little bit just so that while I'm in New York, I don't have to spend so much time on school, or do you prefer us to stay in the week only?
I don't have a preference because this is set up for you to have that flexibility. None of these assignments are locked. You know, like if it was a big deal, I guess there would be a means to lock them until I wanted to have them available for you to post. So, you know, if you finish all the course requirements before you go and you post them to the correct place for the assignment, you know, that's fine. You can do that. You have that flexibility.
Great, thank you. That was what I was wondering.
Great. Anybody else have any questions? Not just about what you see on my screen, but and you see who's participating. But any questions about my PowerPoint presentation? Is there a slide you'd like to see again? Do you want me to talk about the week 4, week 5 assignment? Anybody? Okay, well, like I was commenting about meeting management, hello Sandra, welcome. Anyway, what I was saying about meeting management was start on time and end when the business is taken care of. Sandra, and I'm very glad you joined us. I don't know if you had a chance to look at my PowerPoint presentation for the week 4 live session. But I've gone through the week 4 assignment, the week 4 objectives, and a little bit about the week 5 assignment. Do you have any questions about any of the materials? You're muted, Sandra, and Angel, you're muted too. Sandra, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if you guys had already talked about the assignment.
Yes, we can talk about the assignment, but let me go back to it because you might have questions and that's fine. Let me bring it up. Week 4 and examination of leadership approaches paper. Yes, please, Sandra, do you have questions?
Well, yes. Do you want the paper in the order that you put the bullets in?
If you organize, it's not required, but if you organize your paper along the lines of the bullet points, I think you'll do well. You know, I wouldn't count off if it were organized a little differently, so long as all the elements are present. But I think you have a logical flow here, and if you stick to that, I think that would be good, yes.
I have read on in some documents they say that there are like 6 behaviors, and others they say that there are 4. So I don't know how many behaviors do you consider are like in general? Is there an amount or?
Well, I'm asking for 3 different types of behavioral leadership approaches. So you pick 3 that you think you'd like to discuss in your paper.
Okay.
These are behavioral leadership approaches. Not all of them are behavioral. Some of them are scientific, for instance. Does anyone else have questions on this assignment? Or anything else in the course? I'd be glad to talk with you about it while we're live here.
Professor, I'm sorry, one more thing. My advisor keeps asking me about the teams. You don't have any then, I'm supposing, for this particular course?
No, and I'm surprised your advisor asked you about that. Well, maybe not so surprised. This version of the course, and I told you it began in January, is the first, maybe April, well, forgive me if I mix that up, but it's the first graduate course that I have taught, that's more than 20 years, that did not require learning teams. So maybe your advisor is stuck in that paradigm, but the university is kind of moving away from that. I have the option to do learning teams, but I chose not to. And in this course, definitely learning teams are not required.
Yeah, I don't think she meant it as in like it's required. She just wanted she wanted me to make sure it wasn't required because a lot of classes do, but some don't. So just to make sure I was familiar and everything, that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. That's all she was saying. It wasn't like that, oh, you have to have them or anything.
Yeah, I see. Well, it could be farther on in your program that you will have courses with learning teams, depending on the instructor. So, yeah, it's probably good for her to ask. And since it is an option for instructors to do that, you know, I understand her concern. But nope, not this one.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
About the assignment, yes. Again, the leader that we can choose is like a famous leader or somebody who I think personally that is a good leader. Could be somebody that I have in a previous job, or
it could be, yeah, it does not have to be anybody famous like Steve Jobs or Tim Cook or Jack Welch, former CEO of General Electric. It could be a parent. It could be your current boss. It could be somebody, a sports team coach. Anybody that you can discuss their dominant leadership style. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. Anyone else have questions? Jesus, anything I can answer for you?
No, I'm pretty good with the assignment. Thank you.
Okay, great. Angel, you cool?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I was rushing around, so I still feel like a little discombobulated, but I think I'm okay with the assignment right now.
Well, you know where I hang out, so if you have questions, you're able to ask them. Okay, well, let me get back to my PowerPoint presentation. I think I'm on the last slide. Any other comments for the good of the order or questions? Don't feel like you have to. You know you can ask me in the classroom, or you can text me or call me or email me. I'm here for you. Great. Well, that being the case, I'm going to stop the recording